Hey everyone! If you're a fan of the show, please head over to mikeyop.com and click the subscribe button. It's the best way to support us, and it's free. That's MIKEYOPP.com. Thanks!
Hi, I'm Mike Oppenheim, and you are listening to Coffin Talk, Interviews with the Living, a weekly podcast that explores how our views on death affect the way we live our life. This week, coming to us from Iowa, is Janet Swartz. I've met Janet once in the long, long past, but we just got reacclimated online on this conversation, rather. And she is a profoundly interesting individual who has done a million and one things, including writing a book, How to Hug a Light Being, A Spiritual Journey, which is a bestseller and available on Amazon. And she also runs empowerment process courses. And so I'm sure we're going to get into all of this, so I won't talk on her behalf. So let's just go ahead and say hello to Janet. Hi, Janet.
Hi, Mike.
So good to have you on. How is Iowa today? How's the weather?
It's beautiful. We have a really nice week, actually.
Awesome. And I met you through my parents who used to live in Iowa. It's in a small town called Fairfield. Would you like to explain to our guests the significance of Fairfield, Iowa?
Sure. So Fairfield it's a place that I came in 1980, so you can see I've been here a long time. And I came to meditate, to do transcendental meditation with a large group of people, to find a husband, which I did, right? And to contribute to world peace on the planet, which has not yet happened.
Well, that's awesome. And so that was about 40 years ago that you moved there. The math is easy for me because I was born in 1981. So so you must have been quite young when you moved.
I had my 31st birthday here, actually. So yeah, I'll be 72 on Saturday. Because you like to know that, and you also like to know that I grew up on the East Coast, and that's where I came from, and I married a guy from the East Coast, and we both have pretty much the same backgrounds in Judaism. Basically, we're from the Eastern European Jewish heritage.
Cool, and that's I am too. So you can practice TM, be a practitioner, live in Fairfield with other fellow meditators, but you're still religiously Jewish.
Yeah, and it's not like I abide by or I think about Jewish law that much, but we do the high holidays, and both of us and my training was with an Orthodox rabbi, even though I grew up in a little town in New Hampshire.
That's cool. And actually, the thing you said about moving there that really struck a chord with me because it resonates with my goals was that you were part of the reason to move there was to help create this coherency field for world peace. So I'm actually curious. I know you said it hasn't happened yet, but do you still think that is possible and that's something that's going to happen, could happen?
I don't think we actually have a choice. But so my answer is yes, even though it's a crazy time right now, honestly.
Well, I'm curious what you think world peace looks like and how you think you and I and everyone else fits into it, because it's a concept, but it's also something that many people think is utterly ridiculous and impossible. I am not one of those people.
Yeah. It has to do with love, actually. And if everybody extended their hearts to everybody else at whatever level they need it, then that's all that we really need in the world. And not about protection or division or fighting or anything like that.
Yeah, and so jumping way ahead into your byline of all the many things you've done in life, you currently run empowerment process courses. First of all, how did you get into that? And second of all, what is that like?
Okay, so the way I got into it, well, my daughter had serious cancer when she was 5 or 6. Okay, that's the backstory. And I started to get some kind of, well, they're sort of like therapy sessions, but they're transformational process sessions from this gal who had just come off of a holographic repatterning workshop. And I decided whenever I like something, I tend to want to teach it, or I want to, learn more about it. So I took about a dozen courses, and then and they were quite magnificent. This woman, Chloe Wordsworth, developed them. And then I figured I would take a walk with my son, who took his life in 2010 at age 25, but he was a very lit up kind of a guy, and he was a spiritual mentor along with being a junior accountant at his father's business. But but anyway, we'd take a walk and he would ask me these questions about his experiences in consciousness. And I said to him, I can't really answer you because I don't have those same experiences. And he says, yes, you can, Mom. I said, okay, so fine, ask me the questions. And so he would, and then he would be satisfied. And so I figured that I must be answering according to what he needed, some intuitive guidance or something. And so I decided to write a process that it actually incorporates all the chakras, all the seven major chakras in our body, but I didn't really know that at the time. And I wrote this course and I called it the empowerment process. I was trying to think what to call it. So I trademarked it the empowerment process. And I originally called the first course Following Your Intuitive Guidance for Positive Energetic Transformation. And because I didn't feel I had a corner on the market of intuition, everybody has that, right? It's just a matter of tapping into it and following it and so forth. And I guess because I've done so much of it, this was in 2005 or 6, because I've done so much of this kind of work, and I became basically a very good facilitator of this holographic repatterning for 14 years actually before this. So I must have developed a stronger intuition, and so I'm able to actually give people information. And I don't like to call it intuitive reads, because what are you reading? Maybe I'm reading the Akashic records, I don't know, but anyway, so I was able to answer my son, and I developed this course right after he was still around. And I then I just did it weekly, and he was in one class and my daughter was in another class, and there were 25 brave souls that signed up for this thing. And then I had a friend in Texas who wanted me to come out, and so she got together 15 or 16 people, and I did it as a weekend, and that's how I still teach that first course, but I call it something else, because I call it Become Your Own Healer with the Empowerment Process, because it's really about self-processing. It's really about self-change and so forth. Anyway, I've really been put to it with my two kids, which are not on the planet, whom are not on the planet anymore, and they left differently. But it's really been hard on a mom and me, and So, and they, and children, as you know, and as you will find out more as your little girl grows, are our learning, really.
Totally. Yeah. And I would like to mention that I had met both of your children and I liked them both, and, sorry for your losses. And it's tough. And when I wanted to interview you, I didn't even care if that came up or not, because even though that is 100% the focus of this podcast, life and death, what I remember about you, and it's still very true, is that you're one of the most humble yet confidently direct people I've ever met. And I don't know if you've heard that before. But it's a very interesting
The direct part, yes.
Well, the humility it totally comes in too, though, because you say things like, maybe I'm tapping into the Akashic records, who knows, like that humility with intuition and with the field of consciousness is what I'm looking for. Because, I say that to my friends, hopefully we'll find out the truth someday with this podcast or with some other thing. But, I don't think that's likely. I think that the truth is something we feel, but not something we can intellectually engage with. So I have a backlog of questions now to ask you. I'm going to start with holographic repatterning, because it's a term that I don't think many people would understand. So can you explain what that is exactly?
Yeah, I will. And there's also a book called The Holographic Universe, which I recommend. It was written in the 80s, I think, but it explains a little bit about the hologram. And it's basically we're all energetic beings, and in all of our tentacles, which are not just our mind, but our feeling, our body, and so forth. And we do have a human body. And so I don't really want to talk that much about holographic repatterning, because it's been a really long time since I've done it. But the book explains it scientifically in words that we can all understand very well, the holographic universe. And it became something called resonance repatterning. It changed its name. But I think the original name came from the book.
Okay. So is holographic repatterning though like something that people could look up, and there's still courses on it? Maybe it's called resonance repatterning, but it's
Yes. Yeah, they still, yeah, Chloe has a lot of teachers, and she always supported me too in my work, which was really, really awesome. And she lives, by the way, in Arizona. Yeah, when she's not in India.
yeah, we are this weird. Sedona is so close to us, and we just have this weird, like hippie occult metaphysical connection. It's so strange because it's also full of golfers and like very materialistic Western life. So these two cultures kind of meet here. My question, to make it very succinct, because I do want to move on to the other things that you're more interested in, is holographic repatterning something someone would do for a psychological condition or for a physical condition or for both?
It's just like the empowerment process, whatever people want. Yeah, and the difference really is the empowerment process is simpler. Holographic repatterning is there's like 12 or 14 courses, and they're all different. But you have to start with the basics, is like, what it's about and so forth. So on my website, like I say what the empowerment process is in a short video that my husband took, and it really has to do with becoming self-empowered. And what does that mean? Does it mean connection to God? Well, yes. Does it mean connection to oneself? Well, yes. Is it the same thing? Well, maybe,
Yeah. Well, and so let's get into the nitty-gritty of the whole podcast, which is what do you think happens when we die? But I'd like to specifically ask you, what do you think happens when we die, and what does self-empowerment have to do with that?
Well, there are many questions in between that, but I know this from both my kids, actually. And it's really from people who could connect with them, not so much me. Okay. But I get the information, which is really awesome. But what happens when you lose the casing of the body in this life, okay, is that on the other side, you can work multidimensionally. You can work multidimensionally, but you can work multitasking is really the word that I wanted to say. So in the book, How to Hug a Light Being, A Spiritual Journey, which is the one I wrote 4 years after my son left, so it wasn't a therapeutic piece. It was more a mother's giving some credence, some honoring of Daniel. And anyway, it's a nice book, and most of the people who have read it, say really nice things and blah, blah. And I just posted an update, and there's a couple of things missing. So right after this call, I'm going to be talking to somebody about, uploading some of the changes. But in any case, on the other side, one can work multidimensionally. So here's an example. Here's two examples. But the one that's closest to me at the moment is my daughter. Okay, she left of a very serious, painful sarcoma a year and a half ago, a little less, a year and 4 months ago. And it was very hard for me to watch her die, but she was able to separate pain from suffering. It was very beautiful. And by the time she left, which she had neuropathy at the end, after many surgeries and blah, blah, on and on. But she was able to start working right away. Usually when you go to the other side, you take some time to heal. Okay. All right. So that I happen to know. But what happened is that 5 of her very close friends that she spent a lot of time with, working to help them get significant others, to be okay with their significant other, whatever was the theme for their friends, is that they all are happy and have significant others now. And and so I know that she was involved, and she also was very connected to the planet, to the earth, and wanted to heal the earth, and was connected to the indigenous. She had an intercultural degree and a law degree. And the thing is that, and everybody loved her. She just exuded this patient, beautiful, expanded feminine love. It was unbelievable to me. But in any case, boyfriend at the time, who stayed with her right to the end, it was really awesome, sent this text to me how there was this dam project, the Klamath River Dam, basically, on the West Coast. They're going to take some of the dams down so that the fish could survive, and some of the indigenous people. But she was asked to work on a dam project for the Columbia River, which goes from Canada through 6 states. And I said, and she really, really wanted to make things happen in this dam project. And I said, it's just going to be a while because of, politics, basically, and 5 years and blah, blah. And so it was kind of difficult to match the career and the thinking with the reality. And that's kind of what's going on now, I suppose. but that's the first example. The second one's a lot quicker, and it was after Dan left. Okay, we had this called sitting Shiva, which is in the Jewish tradition. We didn't have to do it with Deborah because she started working right away, but with Dan, there were 3 days before Memorial Day in 2010. And he liked to do everything in a big way, right? So on Memorial Day, we had his big memorial service. There were about 400 people here. It was just this most incredible thing, So one person it was the second night, I think, of sitting Shiva, and there were probably about 125 people there. And there was this woman on the deck who, on our deck, who just radiated this light. So I asked her, and she also, I knew she was, and she came from out of town, but I knew she was a healer of some kind and blah, blah. So I asked her to come onto the porch afterwards, and she agreed. So she did. And during that time, it's all written in this book and How to Hug, by the way. But during that time, she would roll her eyes up, when she would see things or whatever. But she said, do you see that you all have your own special Daniel behind you? And of course, and it was Daniel and Deborah and I were on the porch. And then she saw him divide into infinity and stuff like that. So I know that without the body, that on the other side, that there's, much that can happen. And it depends on our level of evolution, which never stops, honestly.
Wow. And so how much do you think our fear of death in this culture, the pervasive, like, oh my God, when you die, it's all over, I don't want to die. How much do you think of that is like misguided?
And where is it coming from is the question that I have. Yeah, so let me read you part of a poem. It's in the back of my book. It's like 2 stanzas that I'm going to read. Let the process known as death be known deep within for you for what it is and for what it is not. Let fear and remorse be no more. Instead, let be created an understanding of this. The spirit of the departed is beginning a new initiation, which is a cause for celebration. Within the enfoldment into oneness, we all grow towards unity, and it goes on from there. But, it's just, everybody wants to preserve their bodies in general. So this thing about suicide, okay, and I make it very clear in the book, is that this is not a comment on suicide, because some people die from overdoses, or they die they die in different ways. And who is anybody on this planet, including me, to make any kind of judgment or comment on that? So I'm only talking about this one son, right? And some people advanced people, you could say, or people who are readers, or people who are, whatever. I think like Dolores, we read a lot of Dolores Cannon after Daniel left, and she understood that in terms of past life and future life and not having to be here. And there are many people that don't have to be here, but they come, and he was one of those people, according to her, according to the way we think, according to somebody that we subscribed to and was our friend, who was an intuitive. Okay. However, that might not be the case for everybody. And, to come back to this, if you believe in reincarnation, okay, then to come back to this planet is to work out some more of what it is that we decide before we get here that we want to do, So I think that we are guided and we are counseled, and that we decide if we are going to come back, either as a fully developed individual or somebody that still has things to work out, blah, blah, It doesn't really make any difference, and we never really know. So you have a new baby, for example. Okay. And I don't know if you've had the chart, the astrological chart read, or you just know about the kid's personality at a month and a half, I mean,
Yeah.
it's very interesting to watch that and to have I wonder what they're going to be like when they're 10 or 20 or something like that.
Totally.
We have that curiosity as parents still. And it's like, am I still a mom? Well, you bet. It's just to have these, and the thing is to have these, to birth these kids, right? Who are quote light beings, now they're light beings for sure. But even on the planet, people really, really saw that and noticed the different, noticed them. So it's noticed that aspect, I guess. And, there's a lot of other things to say that are fun, but, this is a short interview. So,
Yeah, no, and I'm captivated by so many things you said. I did have another question that was linked to what we just talked about, so I'll ask it next, which is you said Deborah was able to separate pain from suffering. I find this to be like a very intriguing example of so there's like pointers and conceptions in philosophy, and I love this idea of separating the word suffering from the words pain and struggle and fear, and there's so many other words like that. So I want your opinion though, how do you intend for someone to hear that, to separate pain from suffering? Because I think a lot of people think they're mutually exclusive.
Yeah, well, the thing is, I'm not sure I've actually done that myself. So I would watch her in extreme pain and heavy narcotics, but not so heavy that she couldn't be clear, right? And on CBD oils, which was not, what's the word? She could still get from Oregon where she lived. I mean, her home was Oregon, even though she couldn't go back. And when she was in the house, she would say, Mom, I'm going to holler at night because it helps me with the pain, right? It helps me. But don't be concerned about it. And she never complained or anything that I, from my standpoint. And I just tore some cartilage in my left rib doing some stupid things, because I like to use my body. And I was really uncomfortable for a while. And all I did was take ibuprofen, one at night or something or two. And I just would lose it. And I would think about her, and there's something about attachment, that people are on their own journey and we have to let that be. And so that was a part that was the emotional part that I had to learn, or I'm still learning probably, but the pain is what brought it out. So I figured it must've been divinely ordained, because I have to do it.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, so, okay, I think I know where I want to start asking you about death, because I feel like you have answers that I want to hear. In your own personal life, you said that you're 72 years old, which means you still have plenty of years left. But you also mentioned that people come here with goals and things to do. Have you finished your goals? Are you still working on your goals? How do you intuitively know what your goals are?
Yeah, I know what I want to do before I die, unless I die tomorrow, which, it's okay. But yeah, I have 2 books to write. One is I really want to get the how of the empowerment processes out. So there's 3 I have a lot of material, a lot of material. And one of the things that I like doing is writing that stuff. That's really fun for me. So if you go to my website, which is empowermentprocess.com, you'll see a lot of newsletters. It's so chock full of stuff. It's really too much, and so if I were going to do any marketing, it would have to be landing page stuff. But but in any case, so I want to write 2 books, that one. And then I really want to honor Deborah, because she was a phenomenal writer. She was a phenomenal artist and a phenomenal being. And I kind of want to honor this somehow, but I don't really I'm still grieving a little bit. I'm going to go off and on, but I don't want it to be a therapeutic piece, and I'm not really quite sure of the angle yet. But so I just keep throwing things in folders, and I write things occasionally and stuff like that. But,
Those are great goals. And so what, the fulfillment of a goal, is that the same, do you think, for all people? There's a recognition of okay, I met that goal? Or do you think that sometimes we get carried away? You use the word attachment. I've been attached to measurements of goals, and they've done nothing good for me in my life, instead of just being attached to like the goal.
What do you mean by measurement of goals?
Well, so like I've written 6 or 7 novels and I like them and they're good, and I have not sold them to a direct like publishing house the way I fantasized in my early teens and 20s. And so that like lack of confirmation from what I decided has bothered me my whole life. And as I'm getting older, I'm realizing that it's very important that I come to terms with that.
Yeah. So the word the word confirmation is the one that's really important from my standpoint. And it's like acknowledging and accepting, okay, and then taking action. So you're at the point where, well, what kind of action do I want to take? So taking action is the next thing. And one of the things that it's one of my impediments is that I don't have a lot of patience, okay? And also, I really also feel, Mike, that when it's time to make that decision to where to put these things or how to sell them or, you know, whatever it is, that nature will organize that for you and you'll just know. You'll just know. And until then, you don't think about it, because at some time you wake up in the morning and it's like, oh, you know, like that. Or you'll talk to somebody and they'll have the answer for you. It doesn't matter how you receive the information, but it's just that you will receive it when the time is right. In the meantime, you know, do your podcasts or whatever else or write another book or work or whatever you like to do. And my kids used to say to me, Mom, just be in your bliss. And it's like, oh my God, you know, that would be really nice. And, you know, my husband, who works all the time, especially during tax time, which is now, he's always in his bliss. You know, it doesn't matter what happens or who doesn't understand something or how many times he has to do to share, you know, whatever. He's easy. And I mean, you know, I'd like to be like that, but we are who we are, correct?
Well, wow. That was very profound. Well, we are officially out of time, but I do always give my guests one last chance to have the floor because I feel it's very important. So is there anything you're dying to get out there or tell anyone?
Only that whatever appears on the outside is something that's going on the inside, you know.
Oh, I love that.
We might as well just accept that that's something we have to shift, to transform, and that's why a process is useful.
Well, Janet Swartz, thank you so much for helping us put another nail in the coffin. And I will be thinking about a lot of things you said about confirmation, nature organizing things for you, being your bliss. So many wonderful thoughts for me to take and just nourish. And I wish you the best of luck with all of your success. Of course, we will post links to your books and your website and everything like that. So until then, once again, everyone, I am Mike Oppenheim. You have been listening to Coffin Talk, interviews with the living, and we will see you soon.